In Unit 4, we will address scientific styles and structural designs. This unit is divided into 5 sections. Section 1. Overview of scientific styles. While identifying a scientific style, one has to consider that there is a wide span of sciences, including, for example, natural sciences, computer sciences, business sciences, legal sciences, social sciences, and humanities. Please note, different sciences have different scientific styles. The nature of a discipline determines its academic character. Scientific styles are based upon specific research requirements as well as particular research traditions of a given science. This explains why different instructors or thesis advisors might apply different approaches and/or ask for different formal requirements. For the purpose of this chapter, 3 general types of scientific styles will be distinguished. In the field of business sciences, student research projects are often based on a theoretical solution-driven style. If we have a look at the direction of the research process, one would start with a given problem which has been derived from the topic of the project. As we know by now, a research question has to be isolated as a starting point for the analysis that should lead to a conclusion. In some cases, an empirical solution-driven style could be required. Here, the direction of the research process would encompass additional steps. Again, a given problem would lead to a research question that has to be analyzed from a theoretical perspective. Theoretical analysis would lead to one or more hypotheses. Thereafter, an empirical survey would be conducted in order to test the hypotheses and to derive a conclusion. Furthermore, it should be mentioned that in some cases a pure hypothesis-driven style might be applied. Here, the direction of the research process would again start with a given problem. Instead of restricting the initial process to the verbalization of a research question, simultaneously a research hypothesis would be formulated. Thereafter, a theoretical analysis and in some cases an additional empirical survey would follow. Finally, a conclusion would be derived. Please note that the colors indicate the suitability and the applicability while performing research in the field of business sciences. Section 2. Theoretical solution-driven style. The theoretical solution-driven style is frequently used in business sciences. Especially student assignments and student research projects are often based on this style. Amongst others, the theoretical solution-driven style does not require a profound skill set with respect to empirical research methods. The technique with its process steps can be laid out as follows. First, a research problem has to be identified. In a second step, a research question has to be derived from the topic and formulated for the analysis to be undertaken. Thereafter, in a third step, the theoretical analysis of the research question will take place. In business sciences, the analysis will often require a literature-based research approach. Only in rare cases, a pure theoretical research approach will be applied. Fourth, the objective of the theoretical analysis of the research problem is to derive a proposed explanation, which means, in other words, a hypothesis. Finally, the analysis will be concluded with a summary and a discussion of the findings. Please note, in the field of business sciences, the majority of term paper projects will require a theoretical solution-driven style. Section 3. Empirical solution-driven style. In some cases, the empirical solution-driven style is used in business sciences. Especially student research projects that require a reflection of the empirical environment are based on this style. However, it requires a certain skill set with respect to empirical research methods. The technique with its process steps can be laid out as follows. First, a research problem has to be identified. In a second step, a research question has to be derived from the topic and formulated for the analysis to be undertaken. Thereafter, in a third step, the theoretical analysis of the research question will take place. The objective of the theoretical analysis of the research problem is to derive a proposed explanation, that means, in other words, a hypothesis. While applying an empirical solution-driven style, an empirical analysis of the hypothesis will take place. The purpose of the empirical analysis is to derive evidence that leads to the acceptance or falsification of the hypothesis. The analysis will be concluded with a summary and a discussion of the findings. Please note, in the field of business sciences, some research projects will require an empirical solution-driven style. Section 4. Hypothesis-driven style. Only in rare cases a pure hypothesis-driven style is used in business sciences. Frequently, it is used in social sciences and humanities. The technique with its process steps can be laid out as follows. First, a research problem has to be identified. In a second step, a research question has to be derived from the topic and formulated for the analysis to be undertaken. Simultaneously, or shortly after having formulated the research question, a research hypothesis would be formulated. Thereafter, in the fourth step, the theoretical analysis of the hypothesis will take place. Optionally, as an additional process step, an empirical analysis of the hypothesis could be performed. In both cases, the purpose of the theoretical analysis as well as of the optional empirical analysis is to derive evidence that leads to the acceptance or falsification of the hypothesis. The analysis will be concluded with a summary and a discussion of the findings. Please note, a pure hypothesis-driven approach is not common in business sciences. As already pointed out, there are problems while applying a pure hypothesis-driven style in business research. How can one produce a hypothesis at the starting point of a research project, that is, prior to the analysis? Typically, at this point in time, the researcher will be confronted with a new problem that has to be thoroughly analyzed. For the formulation of a hypothesis, a proposed explanation to the problem, more information with respect to the problem is needed. In other words, one has to be quite experienced in order to identify a suitable hypothesis prior to the analysis. For the solution of completely new problems, relying on available knowledge and/or existing experience might not be sufficient. Especially in business sciences, the sourcing and processing of information are prerequisites for the formulation of a hypothesis. Typically, the hypothesis-driven style does not reflect the working style of business reality. Section 5. A comparison of scientific styles. As we know by now, different perspectives of sciences lead to different working styles. Simplifying, while comparing, for example, humanities with business sciences, one could come up with the following styles. Typically, within the field of humanities, a question will be presented that is linked to the available information or literature. In business sciences, it is common to be confronted with a completely new problem that has to be solved. Typically, there is no or limited information available. In humanities, the next step will be the generation of a hypothesis for the question to be addressed. The researcher will hypothesize a proposed explanation that is based on his or her existing knowledge of the relevant literature as well as initial thoughts with respect to the given problem. Hereby, it is assumed that an academic can rely on a profound base of knowledge within his or her field of studies. In business science, a theoretical and/or empirical analysis of the problem would take place. The solution of real-world business problems often requires new approaches of problem solving that cannot be based on existing knowledge or literature. This is due to the ever-changing nature of the economy and the business reality. Hypothesizing right away a proposed explanation to the problem without a thorough prior analysis of the problem would not serve the purpose of the research. In humanities, the next step would be to elaborate on the previously stated hypothesis while writing the paper. In business sciences, the next step would be to elaborate on the problem while writing the paper with the ultimate objective to come up with a conclusion, which means a hypothesis.